not properly discounting the possibility of recession. It's a bigger chance than the markets appreciate. What do you put the odds of recession in 2023?
Well, I think the odds are better than 50-50 at this point. The economy is definitely showing some signs of slowing. For example, if you look at the Philadelphia Fed's coincident indicator of states, which is a labor market indicator, it basically slowed in October in 27 of the states. So, the signs are there that a slowdown is on the way.
One of the issues for Chair Powell when he speaks later this week is going to be what message he wants to send. We actually have both Mr. Bullard and also Mr. Williams right now coming out today and saying, listen, don't be too excited about a slower Fed in raising rates. We're going to have to keep raising rates to control inflation. At this point, what do you expect out of Chair Powell? And particularly, will he in part react to the uptick in stocks that we've had since October? That's not making his job easier.
No, it's not, nor is the weakening of the dollar, which has been roughly 5-6% over past weeks. The markets are looking at the tea leaves of Fed minutes and seem to have concluded that Federal Reserve policymakers are moving to a more deliberate pace of increases. Part of the problem for Powell is that when that is translated into a stronger stock market, a weaker dollar, that is a loosening of financial conditions that goes against interest rate policy. So while I think the most likely outcome for the Fed is a 50-point basis increase, I think Powell's discourse about that will be fairly stern, because I don't think he wants to see financial conditions continue to loosen.
And one of the questions I always have is how much of the talk in the markets right now is because people would like the pace of increases to slow down, in fact, to flatten out and not keep raising. But is that indicated by the inflation numbers at this point? Is there reason in the numbers to say, yes, it's okay, what the Fed has done is working?
In terms of the inflation numbers, we've seen basically 1 month of good news, and that is not enough of a firm basis for moderating or reversing Fed policy at this point. The markets are very focused on interest rates right now. And while that may make sense for the currency markets, for the stock markets, there are really two components in valuing equities. There are interest rates, but there are also the flow of dividends. If we move into recession, that factor is going to weigh very heavily on stocks. So I'm in the same camp as Goldman is in the report you cited. I think the market is underestimating the impact of recession on stock prices at the moment.
The other perhaps big event economically this week is going to be jobs numbers coming out in the United States on Friday. Thus far, I think the jobs markets look pretty doggone resilient as a practical matter. How much weakening do we need to see in the labor markets in order to really get inflation under control?
Yeah, we have a raft of different numbers coming out this week, including the JOLT survey on labor turnover, and that's an indicator that tightened last month after perhaps loosening the month before, underlining the idea that 1 month of data doesn't tell you that much. I think the labor market in general seems pretty strong. I mentioned that Philadelphia Fed data, which goes in the other direction, but
Hey, Shalom, Makim, Shalom. First thing and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. I'd like to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. New in this gospel, broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever they may be. This is just a quick lesson through the Spirit. This is another economic update. Been kind of monitoring this whole so-called recession thing, which they're talking about U.S. slipping into a recession in 2023. But in fact, we are already in a recession. Okay, these talking heads, Bloomberg analysis, and these particular economists. You got this guy by the name of Jerome Powell, which is the head of the, I believe he's like one of the chairmen of the Fed. You can't really listen to what these guys say because they're giving you a fabricated indicator of what's really beneath the surface. And be honest with you, this American dollar, this system is done. It's totally on a collision course of collapse, which is done systematically, by the way, because they want to bring in the digital-based systems, which will bring in the MOTB, the thing that this guy Cesare Quack seems to scoff against and seems to kind of derail himself from speaking on. Okay, because once this society completely collapses, once this economy collapses, they're going to use digital tokens, okay, followed by this MOTB, that's the mark of the beast, that's going to be required by every man, woman, and child on the planet Earth to have it in order to navigate in society. Okay, so if you want to work, you want to have apartments, you want to have a certain lifestyle, then basically, man, you're going to have to take that C-HIP. Okay, you're going to have to take the C-HIP. And this is what they're not telling you because it's going to catch the world by surprise due to some type of major event. Okay, so anyway, I want to look up an alternate article on this real quick because this is Bloomberg. I'm not subscribed to it, nor am I about to pay to subscribe to a bunch of white lies. Okay, though it has truth in it, but no, you can't trust Esau. All right. So we got the Edge Markets, Financial Post, City Data, which just came out 2 days ago, 24 hours. Let's look up Forex Factory, see what happens here. All right, and it's pretty much the same article for the most part. It just kind of worded differently, but regardless of it, the American economy is pretty much through its history. Okay, and we're on a collision course to getting that MOTB real soon. And this is the proof in the pudding, because it says the world economy is facing one of the worst years in 3 decades as energy shocks unleashed by the war in Ukraine continue to reverberate, according to the Bloomberg Economics. And they're blaming the war in Ukraine, but honestly speaking, we have been in a retail apocalypse for the last, 18, 19, 20, 21, for the last 5, 6 years, maybe 7 years. Okay, since 2016, 2017. We've been in what you call a retail apocalypse, which a lot of these big box stores here in America, they're shutting down. Okay, these factories, these prominent businesses, they're shutting down. They're already talking about it's a shortage on medication. So that's another thing. And these pestilence and diseases that's hitting the earth is getting ready to ramp up. And you're going to have a shortage on medicines. It's going to cause people to go into a frenzy of panic. Okay, but it says a new analysis, economist Scott Johnson forecasts growth just 2.4% in 2023, but that's down from the estimated 3.2% this year and the lowest excluding the crisis of years 2009 and 2020 since 1993, which they're telling you another crisis is on the horizon. It says, however, the headline figures is likely to mask diverging fortunes, with the euro area starting in 2023 in recession and the U.S. ending the year in one. But by contrasting, China is projected to expand more than 5%, boosted by a faster than expected end to its zero tolerance COVID strategy and support for its crisis hit property market. Okay, because we always say that the markets in Europe, 9 times out of 10, could destabilize before they fully manifest in the West. Because once the European markets destabilize, it's going to shake up the dollar a little bit more. Because a lot of these nations, they're dealing with the dollar for in trade of oil and petrol, which you have the OPEC nations, okay, the BRICS nations, Saudi Arabia, which is pretty much cutting ties with America's oil reserves, or their oil companies, which is going to cause them to see more inflated prices because now gas is $2.89. So everybody think that everything is all good, everything is going down for the holiday, but that's just the quiet before the storm. Okay, they need people to shop a little more to continue to pump the fiat currency into this system to keep it afloat. So when it do fall, it's going to be a harder fall. So you people are going to beg for the mark of the beast. You see? But let me see here. Did I read that already? Yep, it says, however, differences will also be on display when it comes to monetary policy after a year in which central banks dashed towards restrictive territory in a pack. But in the U.S., with wage gains set to keep inflation above target, we think the Fed is headed towards the terminal rate of 5% and will stay there to Q24, to 1 Q24. But in the euro area, meanwhile, a more rapid decline in inflation will mean lower terminal rates and the possibility of cuts by the end of 2023. But in China, where authorities are torn between a desire to support the recovery and concern about the weakness of the currency, limited rate cuts are on the cards. Okay, so they're getting ready to cut rates and do interest rates hikes, which is going to affect the consumer. Okay, so you're going to start seeing your dollar lose more purchasing power. Energy crisis, energy bills, gas bills, light bills, oil changes. These things are going to be more expensive. Car parts, things are going to go up. Okay, used vehicles have been up since the Great Recession of 2008. So it's not looking too good for the American economy. But listen to what it says here in the book of Genesis 47. It says 47, and I'm going to start at verses 13. It says, and there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of famine. Okay, because they're talking about major food shortages. Okay, supply chains at a marketing at a screeching halt. The distribution centers are low on stock. They're in backup reserve mode. Okay, and these are things that your typical NBC News, your Fox 32, your MSN Money, they're not reporting on these things. Though they give you particular hues at the stock market doesn't all the time indicate the current state of the economy, because the stock market is actually controlled. Okay, but it says, and Joseph gathered up all the money that were found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought, and Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. Okay, and that's the mindset that people are going to be in, going back to bartering systems, because, hey, mass evictions are on the horizon. People are shacking up with family roommates. You go online, you see online ads. People are looking for roommates to share rent with because they can't afford it, because the duplex they once had $700-800 a month is now $1,500-1,600 a month. So they need 3 other roommates to kind of make ends meet. Okay, a lot of people are going back to stay with their parents. Okay, because rents are high. A 2-bedroom apartment, $1,100, man. Something that was $700-800, or if that, you paying damn near double that now. You see, and it's just gonna continue to get worse. Why? Because Esau Edom wants to bring people to their knees. It's called Hegelian dialectus. Pressure from above, pressure from beneath, man. Okay, they want to squeeze everybody into accepting this MOTB. All right. So it says, and Joseph said, give your cattle and I will give for your cattle if money fail. And they bought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses. Okay, because they had storehouses, they stored things up. And this was basically a bartering system, because though Joseph gave bread and food, cattle was more lucrative because it's a longevity. It's a long-term investment, so to speak. You see, and when you're investing in livestock, basically you get more livestock and your money continues to flourish, versus you giving somebody some bread and food, which is going to sustain them for a few hours, if that. Okay, but it says, and the flocks for the cattle of the herd and for the asses, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle that year. That's how much they had stored up. You see. So let's go to here to the book of James, the 5th chapter, because you Edomites, man, you're getting ready to lose it. All right, you small-time business investors, man, you stock market gurus, you jakes that's all into the cryptocurrency. It was this one Jake I used to work with. Only thing he used to talk about was cryptocurrency. But I'm like, nigga, you like 15 years late. People done already made millions off that and cashed out, which Bitcoin, that algorithm is controlled too. All right, and when they pull the stocks on that, then what you gonna do with Bitcoin and those other cryptocurrencies? Nothing. Okay, so this is the book of James 5:1. It says, go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl, for your misery should come upon you, right? Because you Edomites have corrupted the earth through your monetary and your fraudulent banking system. Okay, the whole Fed, the whole IRS, the whole printing of this fiat currency is all fraudulent, man. Okay, it's no authenticity behind it at all. But yet people are risking their lives for the almighty dollar, which is a fiat currency. And you can look up what fiat mean. I'm not going to explain it. Look it up. We've went over it several times. Look it up. You see? But it says your riches are corrupted, right? Going into this fiat currency, the blood money, okay, the wars, because the scriptures say that. I mean, the bankers say that when blood is high in the streets, that's the time to do business, so to speak. War, all bankers war. They make billions off war. Like this war in Ukraine right now. Who you think profiting off that? The small hats, man. Okay. And it says here, your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them. No, it says your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eating. And your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them should be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it will fire. It says, for ye have heaped treasures together for yourselves for the last days, right? Because, hey, they think that storing up all these riches, the gold, the silver, the rubies, the jewels, they feel like that's going to help them build the new world order, and they're going to sustain the longevity in building up the new world order. But the Most High has another thing coming for Esau, because he's getting ready to be uprooted out of power. Like it tells you in Job, he should vomit those riches. Okay, those riches you stole from us, in fact, and you're going to vomit that up. You're going to give that back, because riches are never really truly destroyed. They're just translated from one empire or one people to the next. They're translated. Okay, but it's not going to be any Federal Reserve note in the kingdom. Okay, we're going to deal with real money, real livestock, land. Okay, gold, silver, rubies, jewels. We ain't going to have no $1 bill on display at one of our museums. No. Okay, it's going to be done deal. We're not going to have an American flag on display giving Esau a history lesson on how great he was. No. Okay, we're going to commemorate the destruction of America, a.k.a. Babylon the Great. And it says here, behold, the hires of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, right? Because this system, this pit they put us in, this fraudulent system, we're kept back by fraud because we're constantly working paycheck to paycheck, paying taxes, never getting out of debt. Okay, because if you look at like, I believe, was it Jacob that invested in a well, if I'm not mistaken, but our forefathers, we had land, we had wells, we had landmass, we had waterways. Those things are able to be bought and paid for, that you own them. But with the fiat currency or with the Federal Reserve note, you would never own anything with that, because it's a debt note. That's why you have what they call monthly reoccurring charges, because the money is not powerful enough, or it's not backed by anything to help ownership. Yeah, you put your name on paper, but ultimately you don't own anything. Like you can buy a house, but you don't own the deeds to the land. So you would never truly own it. Okay, you behind on taxes. What they do, they come auction your house off and they take it from you. You see what I'm saying? That's why it says here, backed by fraud, cried in the cries of them which have reaped are entered to the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth, which is the Lord of the armies. It says, ye have lived in pleasure on the earth, and been one time undisciplined, and ye have nourished your hearts as in a day of slaughter. You have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. So be patient, therefore, brethren, patient possess ye your souls. Remember, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waited for the precious fruit of the earth, and have long patience for it until he received the early and latter rain. So patience, man. The Lord is getting ready to make some very, very powerful moves out here that's going to shut this devil down, man. I mean, it's going to come literally overnight. It seemed like his tyranny is being drawn out. But hey, brothers, man, Yahweh Shai, he got us. You just got to believe that, all right? And not go ahead of the beck and call. Don't cause yourself to get any more, to any detriments out here. Like it says, big banks hike their prime rates to 6.45%. Yeah, a collapse is imminent. But anyway, with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. And with that, Shalom and a Baba Ball.